Excellent. Fantastic. It says we are live. So, hello, everyone. Hello. If you are here and watching, then say hello to us. Let me know in the comments where you are from. Say hello so we can hear you and see who is attending. Show us some love. Say hello before we kick off today. I'm very excited by today's session, and we'll introduce my guest very shortly once I know that you are listening. So don't be shy. Say hello depending on where you are watching from. Let me know where you're watching on LinkedIn, whether you're on Facebook or whether on YouTube. Let me know where you are watching and where in the world you are before we kick off today's session. I can see that we're live on Facebook. I can see that's working. I can see that we're live on LinkedIn. I can see that we're on YouTube. So I just need to wait to see somebody say hello before we get started. So if you want this session to roll, you know what to do. Fantastic. Thank you very much. I think that is that's Marilise from Banbury. Hi there to you, Marilise. Hello there to you, Andrew. Hi to, if you're on a Facebook and you haven't given Facebook access for me to see your name, I won't be able to see who you are, but I can quickly check on my other screen to see. So that's Shaz. Thank you. Shaz from Birmingham is here. We've got RR here. Ahmed, all good on YouTube. Fantastic. And Tim as well. Fantastic. So I can see that is all working. The tech is working. Brilliant. So let's make a start because I'm very excited today. It's not going to be me, but it's going to be someone else who's going to be stealing the show. And that is the one and only Paul Dunn. A legend in the profession, someone who has been serving the accounting profession for many years now, from probably the time when I was in primary school. So a very, very, but he still is as youthful, energetic, and full of energy, and puts some of us to shame in terms of the energy that Paul has. So Paul is actually, I haven't had the pleasure of learning directly from Paul, but I've learned. My mentor was a student of Paul, so I'm kind of the grandchild prodigy of Paul, you could say. And it is it's amazing that Paul and I were having a conversation that he was talking about the same things that I now talk about to accountants about pricing and timesheets and moving away from the billable hour and value pricing and all that wonderful stuff. Paul was actually talking about the same things over 30 years ago. So it shows that some things take a long time to change, but hopefully change is happening, and I'm amazed that Paul is still around, still has the patience to talk to us and to give us the pleasure of his company. So I think I could go on and on to lay on the attributes of Paul, but Paul, I'm gonna hand over to you. So today's session is going to be a bit different to our normal sessions where you probably hear me interview other accountants and it's more of a question and answer style. But today's session is going to be Paul delivering a session on how businesses can do good and how we can move from standard to stand out. So it's going to be a very engaging, a very interactive session. So feel free to, as usual, put any questions you have in the comments, and Paul's going to make it interactive and encourage you to use the comments box as well. So keep those comments coming. I can see that quite a few more of you have joined. So hello to Small Biz Account. Hello there to Chris. Hi there, Jill. Hello there, Louisa from who's also supporting Paul from B1G1 in Singapore. Fantastic. Hello there, Nathan. Hi to Wendy. Hello there, Rennie. And hello there, Path. Good to see you all here. So without further ado, I'm going to pass over to you, Paul. Paul, welcome. So glad that you are here with us to share some pearls of wisdom. I hand over to your good self. Please kick off.
Well, Rizza, thank you so much. It is absolutely great to be here, even though we had some little tech challenges, by the way. And part of those challenges mean that it's very challenging for me to see the chat. But anyway, don't let that worry you, because that is going to be a way in which we interact. So thank you so much for being here. What it is to be sharing lunchtime with you. Of course, it's actually 7 hours later here in Singapore, so about 8:10 or so. But even so, there's lots left in the day. So thank you for joining me. And by the way, in fact, let me show you what we're going to need to do today. You are absolutely, when we congratulate you right now for being here, you're absolutely going to need a notepad. Make sure you got that notepad right alongside you. Would you also make sure that you turn it sideways, right? There's a reason for that. I think, Razor, we call that landscape. Am I right?
We
Something
do
like
indeed.
that. So landscape there. And if you wanted to get ahead of the bunch, and who doesn't want to get ahead of the bunch, then we are going to do some drawing as we go through today. So what I'd love you to do is, you want to get ahead of the bunch, just draw a couple of triangles. We may need more than that actually as we go through. Very simple stuff. And you might draw that long rectangle. By the way, some of the stuff that you're going to be drawing, you could kind of quote unquote cheat on that, and you could just take a photograph of what's coming up on the screen. So you might want to have your iPad or whatever other camera device you have handy as well. So make sure you've got all of those things. By the way, you need to know that I cannot see the chat, but what I'd love you to do, I know you've already said where you are, but if you want, just pop it in there, but alliterate it. So for example, if you were in Manchester, you'd say, I'm in marvelous Manchester, like I've set up there, stupendous Singapore. So let's see how clever you are at alliterating. Go ahead, and Reza, please tell me as that's coming through, but I'm going to assume you're going to be doing that. So here are the three things that we're going to be sharing with you today. Three really crucial things. We're going to be talking about why we all need a news story. Not just a news story to tell, but a news story to create. Then secondly, we're going to look at, as Reza said, how we move from standard, think ordinary, to standout. How do we do that? We're going to give you lots of how-tos and how you proudly can become a B1G1 business for good. Now, if that, you see where it says SG or Singapore, that sounds good. Okay, so if you want to put SG on the chat, or I'm in, or whatever else you want to do, so that we know those three things make sense to you, pop it in, and I'm going to assume you're all saying yes as we go through. Oh, and now we get interesting. What I want you to do on your notepad, if you would, I want you to write a rather large 2 P's, okay? So 2 P's, and these P's are going to become very, very important as we go through as well. Don't mess up your drawings, okay? So let's take a look at what these P's stand for. The first one stands for potential, and the second one stands for, as you will see, purpose. This word potential is really, really, really crucial. I was talking to Reza about it the other day, and it's really, really important. So today, I need to say this. We're not going to look at, quote unquote, what people typically do, solving problems and all that kind of stuff. We're going to go way beyond that and look at your potential. Now, that's very, very interesting. And by the way, that's what you're going to be doing with your clients, or your customers, as we call them sometimes as well. That idea comes from this book. Now, typically when you see books on screens, you rush out and buy the book. Don't rush out and buy this one, because it's all about ants and termites and other things. And the lady who wrote this, by the way, Tasmin Woolley Barker, she is now the go-to change agent in Silicon Valley for how teams can perform magnificently. There she is right there. But in the book, you can learn all about superorganisms, as you can see right there, and you can learn how your company can too. But I just want to show you a little quote that she said in an interview the other day. And this is so crucial. You might want to write this one down, because it's something that I think you'll be saying with your clients. She makes the point that nature does not solve for problems. She says the key is that nature always looks for potential. And that's what I want you and I to start looking for. The potential that we have in our teams, the potential we have ourselves, and of course, the potential that's there in our clients or customers as well. So this word potential, I really want to sort of etch that onto your forehead, if you would. And then we're going to have a look at purpose. And purpose, we're going to get into that in quite an interesting way. But in order to define it, I want you to take this note. Purpose is something that is bigger than yourself. For example, your purpose should not be, I want to be the #1 accounting firm in Brighton, for example. That's all about you. Purpose has got to be something bigger than yourself. Now, why would you want to do that? Stay tuned, you're going to see it. Just as it happened, by the way, when you do that, some interesting things will happen. And there has been a massive shift to this whole process of getting on purpose. And we're going to talk about that shift, but importantly, we're going to talk about the potential of that shift as well. Now, since we're all accountants on this, I guess you're into numbers. So let's talk about some numbers and why this purpose thing is important. You can see this was done by a company that you know, Deloitte, or at least monitored Deloitte, one of the survey companies that's part of Deloitte. And this is, you can see this, why a purpose-driven strategy is good. I would say it's great for business. Now, you can take a photograph of that, but let's just look at some of the key numbers in this, because they are mind-blowing numbers. Look at this. In terms of recognition, 78% of customers are more likely to remember you when you have a strong purpose, something that's bigger than yourself. How about this? Reza and I were talking the other day about pricing. Look at this. When you have a significant purpose, what's going to happen is you can, if you so wish, so the study says, go significantly higher in your pricing. Look at this. I was talking today to some accountants in the United Kingdom who said, oh, we can't get team members. We can't get team members. And there's all sorts of reasons why that is, but you can fix that. You really can fix that by getting high on and becoming what we call a purpose-driven. In fact, we're going to go beyond being purpose-driven. We're going to go to become impact-driven, but more about that a little later on. And look at this. You can even do it without paying them high salaries, according to Deloitte. Monitor Deloitte. And whilst I guess that many of you are not wanting to exit your firm right now, have a look at what happens according to the study when you might choose to exit. Look at what happens to EBITDA. Look at that, 4 times higher valuations. So these numbers would seem to indicate that our time together tonight is really, really crucial. And by the way, not just crucial for you, but crucial for the clients you are privileged to serve. Now, it is very, very possible for us to get hooked on these numbers. But just today, literally just today, about 4 hours ago, I got a note from a friend of mine. Some of you would know him. His name is Simon Sinek. Simon and I share some time together. And here's a really interesting point. You know, he's the guy who wrote Start With Why and all that kind of stuff, right? So he made this point today. Have a look at this. There's Simon. He made this point, which is this: purpose does not need to involve calculations or numbers. Take a look at what it's about. Yes, those numbers are kind of interesting, but purpose is about the quality of life. The thing that I want you to notice, and boy, oh boy, do we need this now. Purpose is human. It's human, not economic. However, it kind of is interesting that we have those numbers to kind of back it up. So with that in mind, why on earth do we need to do this right now? This is the understatement of the day, isn't it? Our world has changed, and it has changed more than any of us could imagine. And it's changing big time. Now, because we are part of that is, if you like, the environment that we're creating, the environment that we're working in, then we need to change as well. I was talking a couple of weeks ago to the longtime president of the AICPA. His name is Barry Melanson. And Barry said this: we will not recognize this profession 5 years from now. And he ought to know. He's in a lot of committees and that sort of stuff. So you and I need to change, and we need to do that right now as well. So the question is, what do we need to change from to? By the way, I get that change is uncomfortable, but what we're going to do is make it really, really easy for you. This is the most complex drawing you are going to do tonight, which means you can take a photograph of it if you want. So on the left-hand side of your screen, what you've got is all of the things that led us to this point in time. Okay? And by the way, obviously, we in business were responsible for a lot of these things. On the right-hand side of your screen, we're going to talk about the change that we must make. And by the way, you're a critical thing in this. Why? Because there's nobody that I know that so influences business than you, and then the profession. Okay, so let's have a look at all these things down the left-hand side and where we need to move from. So the left-hand side is like from, and the right-hand side is like to. And what we might do is we might start at the bottom, right? And by the way, this has been in operation since about 2008, when we learned that, that was the greed is good economy. And we learned that didn't work too well. So let's just move up. One of the things that we need to work on is this whole thing about this is not about self. Today, we have to be about something bigger than self. To put that another way, we need to move from me to we. One of the things that the pandemic showed us very, very clearly is that we are seriously all connected, and we need to start understanding that that is true. The biggest one, though, in terms of where we're heading, is we need to move from inputs to outcomes. We need to be very clear about this. You are rewarded only to the extent of the outcomes that you are producing for the client you're privileged to serve. It has nothing whatever to do with the inputs, and we'll talk a little more about that later on, rather. So from inputs to outcomes. Value is always important, but now it's values, as you'll see in a moment, that are crucially important. In other words, what you stand for is much more important. It was always important, but now it's more important than ever before. Look at that next one up there, from pushing to attracting. This is not about getting out there and pushing Facebook ads, all of those sorts of things, or LinkedIn ads. It is about building something that is so attractive that people want to come. I don't know whether you've ever noticed, but if you push someone, they tend to push back. Okay. On the other hand, when it's attractive, it opens up a whole lot of opportunities for you. I want this third one down, transacting from transacting to belonging. This belonging thing is so important. Reese's writing a book about it. So are we. This whole thing and subscriptions and that sort of stuff. We need to move from monetizing transactions to monetizing the relationship. And again, you're going to see exactly how we do that. This, well, you saw it on the previous slide. We did profit. Is profit important? Of course it is. Of course it is. But purpose now is the thing that actually leads the profit, as you just saw. So we need to move from profit-led to purpose-led. You'll see how that works in a second. And on top of that, of course, from income-driven to impact-driven. Now, if you've got a photograph of that, it's all very well to have that, but what's the result when we do these things? First of all, let me give you some examples of what those things mean. So, for example, your income is a direct result of the impact that you create for others. It's a direct result of that. In terms of, I gave you this one a little while ago, the key is to monetize the relationship, not the transaction. I'm going to show you exactly how you do that. And in terms of us all being connected, you probably did something around watching or being part of even COP26. And I think, Reza, the only guy who's older than me in the world is Sir David Attenborough. And I don't know whether you saw it, but there was this 7-minute speech he did at COP26, where, by the way, he used the word story 17 times. And he looked at them and he said, if by working apart we're a force powerful enough to destabilize our planet, surely by working together we're a force powerful enough to save it. So this is from self to something bigger than self, and me to we. Now, what does that lead us to? Let's find an alliteration, just like I had stupendous Singapore or whatever it was, or brilliant Birmingham, or magnificent Manchester. Let's do a little bit of alliteration here. On the left-hand side of your screen, this is what we call standard. Another way of saying it is ordinary, but it doesn't alliterate too well. And so the purpose of us being here, and by the way, again, Riz, thank you so much for having me here, is to move from this left-hand side to the right-hand side. What do we call that? From moving from standard to stand out. And this must become, absolutely must become, your new story. Now, this word story is going to be really, really important in just a moment. By the way, but just to keep you on track, if you're taking notes, just write the word standout. Okay? You might go back on some notes later on. So where we're going here is from standard to stand out, because you stand for. You might want to make sure you've got that sort of story arc. It's from standard to stand out to stand for. And again, stand for something bigger than yourself. Now, it turns out that when you do this, as Rosa said, that, you know, the B1G1, you can see it in the top right of your screen. And some of you, as a result of what we're doing tonight, my time at least, are probably going to want to be part of this incredible thing called B1G1, Business for Good. So businesses for good are really standout businesses. And by the way, being a business for good just happens to be, and you saw some of that from the Deloitte report, good for business. But we're going to have a look more in more depth at that in just a moment. So again, if you're taking little notes on it, keynote here is stand for. And where does that lead? So we're going from standard to stand out because we stand for. And when you do that, and this is for me a goosebump moment, you are setting the vision, the values, and the agenda for an entire generation yet to come. Now, I didn't say that. It was said in 1994 by this guy. He said, the storyteller is the most powerful person in the world. Now, we can ignore the power play in that, but the crucial thing in there, he said this: the storyteller, meaning you, actually, I'll tell you more about that in a minute, sets the vision, the values, and the agenda for an entire generation yet to come. This is not about you. It's about what you see in the top right-hand corner of your screen. And when you start to think of that, then some people start to think of that in terms of legacy, right? Interestingly, when we think of legacy, most of us would think of, and by the way, I'm going to put this back into your firm in just a second, but for now, let's just look at where this leads, okay? So when most people think of the word legacy, they put the word leave, like leaving a legacy before it, as if we had a choice as to whether we leave a legacy or we don't. Reality is we don't have a choice. We are going to leave a legacy, no choice. The choice we have is what sort of legacy is that? Is it a legacy of consumption or is it a legacy of contribution? But as you already know, I'm a fan of alliteration, standard to stand out because you stand for, and we can apply that same thing to legacy. So instead of thinking about something that is way out there, as in we are leaving a legacy, why don't we think about living it? And why don't we think about leveraging it? Living it every single moment and leveraging it to the people with whom, again, we're privileged to serve. And why would we do that? For an entire generation yet to come. I want you just to sort of ponder that for a moment and just imagine the impact of doing that in your firm and doing it right now. By the way, you'll be joining 3,000 businesses that are doing this as well. So just at least that number, by the way. Just imagine the impact of that and just imagine the impact of living it every day. And in relation to this, just imagine, what I want you to do is just imagine a little bit more in just a moment. In fact, let's do this. In one of those triangles, would you please make this a bigger triangle because you're going to need to pop a lot on this triangle. This is where this all leads. Once you do what we're talking about here, then what happens is you become the go-to firm that people love to buy from. Put that up on the left-hand axis, if you would, that people love to work for and that people respect and refer. This is the whole thing around potential and purpose. This is the outcome, if you like, of doing these things that we're going to show you how to do in just a moment. So just think about these things. People love the go-to firm that people love to buy from. For example, what does that mean? What that means is when you do all of this, you're going to be attracting and keeping great clients. By the way, not ordinary clients. If I could see the chat, I would ask you to put a yes in there if you have clients that you wish you didn't have, right? The answer, the critical thing on that thing is why? Why is that? But anyway, let's think about the great clients for a moment. So you attract and you keep great clients. By the way, that Deloitte survey was kind of interesting in relation to that. And then on the right-hand side, what else happens? You become a magnet for talent. Again, that was what the Deloitte study and so many hundreds upon hundreds of other books and papers from various things are telling us, that you become a magnet for talent. And guess where that leads? Finally, you can charge what you're really worth. And by the way, in terms of what you're really worth, I would love you to be able to look in the mirror and just get what you do. What you do is you enrich lives. That's what you do. And if MasterCard were your marketing agent, they would say it's priceless. And it is. So let's have a look at these things on the edge right now. What happens when you do all of this? Well, when you attract and keep great clients, guess what? You can fire those that you don't enjoy if you choose to. Right? You move from chasing clients. I want you to see the momentum in all of this. You move from chasing clients to choosing clients. And on the right-hand side, I hope you're filling in your diagram. This is going to become one of those things you put up on the wall. You become a magnet for talent and you create teams of income. Now, notice that word. It's not streams of income, it's teams of income. And that has something to do with the way in which you structure the culture and the pods in your team. So in other words, once you get this done, it's not you that's doing the work. And what's really interesting, we shouldn't get me on this, but you move from this terrible thing, it really is, being time driven to being impact driven. And that is such a crucial move. Let's flip over to the left-hand side again. So what happens is you can choose to, need to do it, but you choose to move from reporting history. By the way, am I saying that history is irrelevant? Of course not. But what you can do, remember the whole thing about potential? You can move from reporting history to helping your selected clients. Notice how I've said that. Notice all your selected clients. By the way, in the chat, if you would, admittedly that I can't see it, but I just want you to let me know if you would want to do that. Is that something that to which you would like to aspire? And rather, I hope I'm seeing lots of whys and lots of yeses, or I hope you are anyway. Sadly, I can't see them in the chat there, because that's
they're a bit slow to come through, but I'm sure they will in a second.
That's partly because I can't see them, and I would be commenting on them as we go through. But anyway, let's hope it is. So remember now what we've been talking about, right? We've been talking about moving from standard to stand out because you stand for. And then when you do that, the really crucial thing is to become impact driven. We're going to show you exactly how you do that in just a moment. Again, I've got the chat up there that says pop in the word impact. So now, once we understand, if you like, the kind of outcome that this session is designed to produce for you, it's like, let's show you how. Most people kind of go, yeah, well, I get it, but how? So now let's get into the how. And I want you to imagine something. Just imagine that every time in your firm, whenever something good happens, for example, you made a sale, you upgrade a customer. And by the way, the reason Ron and I, we love to use the word customer other than client, but it's the, for you can put client in there. So every time you upgrade a client, you get paid on time, you get a referral. In other words, something good for you. You get a new follower on your LinkedIn profile or whatever it is. Imagine every time you did that, something great happened in our world as well. And imagine you were in control of that. So, for example, imagine every time you got a lead, a child got fed. Just pause for a minute and think about that. By the way, later on, this is going to tell me how many people are on this Zoom call. What I will do, and it's not me, by the way, but it is, I'm doing this, but so many B1G1 members do this. Automatically, every time we're on Zoom, at least, there's only one of us there, 11 kids get access to game-changing education just because you're here. And that happens automatically, 11 days of access to game-changing education just because we're on Zoom. Think about that for a minute. What about every time you converted one of those leads? Imagine that a tree was planted. This is not about you doing something once a year. This is integrating this right into the very heart of your business. There you go. Every time you connect on Zoom, someone gets access to life-changing e-learning. How about this? Every time a customer pays you on time, wouldn't that be nice? You provide a microloan to entrepreneurs somewhere. What about every time your team hits key targets, that a child in need gets access to life-saving water? By the way, there are 780 million of them right now. Every time your team hits a target, whatever that target was, we got that job out on time, a kid gets access to life-saving water. Or every time you onboard a new team member, you give bricks to build schools. All of those things you see on the right-hand side, by the way, are totally your choice. You're in total control of that through this amazing, some people refer to it as an operating system for good, as B1G1 Business for Good. And when you become a B1G1 member, we're going to show you how that happens, then all of this happens for you. Let me explain it a little more. So when you're a B1G1 member, you can make impacts. I want you to just look at what's written down the bottom of the screen there. From just 1 cent. Seriously, from just 1 cent plus fully 100% of that 1 cent or whatever it is you're giving goes to the projects you choose. I hope that's sinking in. Not only that, this is part of the magic of B1G1. Not only that, but every single one of your impacts are measured, they're tracked, and they're easily displayed very proudly in real time. I'm going to show you this on your website, if you so choose. And not only that, by the way, have a look again. From just 1 cent, we can start making a difference. We don't have to wait until we make it, as it were, just from 1 cent. And impacts are measured and tracked and displayed. And as you can see on the left-hand side, fully 100% goes. Take nothing off the top. And B1G1 lets you combine local and global giving in really powerful ways as well. Let me show you something of that so you can see. By the way, in the chat right up here, I've got, how would you feel if that was happening? I'm not going to ask you that question, but if you wanted to put it on the chat and go, I wonder how you'd feel if that was happening in your firm. And by the way, how would your team members feel if they knew that was happening every time something great happened, again, under your control? This is a website of an accountant. They're in a town of 26,000 people. And so rather obviously, local giving is very important for them. So the town is called Ballina. But have a look at the website. Remember we said that this is not about inputs, it's about outcomes. So on their website, which by the way, I'm going to take you to live in a moment, if everything works okay, which it may not, by the way, because of the way the software is working here. But anyway, take a look at it. You, that's all we focus on. You, your family, your wealth, your business, and the legacy you and we leave. That's it. Join us on this amazing journey. Kind of interesting, right? In a town of 26,000 people. Now, what I can do, and I would suspect, whether you can tell me, I can go live to that particular site right now, but because it's going to Safari, I'm not sure whether you can see that. Can you see anything differently on your screen? Or are you still seeing me?
We can indeed, Paul. We can see what you're seeing, the actual site.
Oh, right. So you can see some people walking along the beach. Is that right?
Yes, we can.
Oh, wow. Okay. This town called Ballina is alongside the beach. So let's do this. Let's just go through this. And what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to go to this little part of their site, which you can see is called Legacy. And so we go there, and there's a fair few words. And by the way, notice that they have a goal as to their giving. This is the number of impacts that they're wanting to create by 2025. Okay, and there's 67.2%. That's automatically done, rather obviously. And then there's probably a little too much text there. But then we get into, here's the local giving, a lot of stuff that they do locally. And then take a look underneath that, and then here's the global giving, and you can see that being counted. The point about that is that when your clients see that, See, local is fantastic, but local and global takes it to a totally another level in terms of purpose. And by the way, as we scroll down, talking of that, we'll be able to see, oh, look, here we go. Here's the global goals. They were actually being counted up. So you could have seen it being counted had I gone down there really, really quickly. So, but let me show you that in a slightly different, oh, by the way, and if I scroll down a little more, I will see their map and all of that kind of stuff. But let's just scroll down, or let's go back to the static display. Have you got that right now, Rizner? Is it working?
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm.
Oh, good. Wow. So let's have a look at someone in the United Kingdom and see how they do that. I'm going to show you a couple of things from the UK. This is Niall McGinnity at NUVAM9. He's been a B1G1 member for about 3 years, I think. Let's have a look at what he does. And by the way, you'll see in a moment how we help you do all of this. So we click on his impact tab. Every time we do business, something amazing happens. There you see the little counter running up. You see here some interesting examples of some of the projects that he's giving to. And he talks about how you can see your impact, meaning the impact that you're making on behalf of the clients. There you see the map. You're going to see that in more detail right now. So that as we move, this is on your website, by the way, and it's done automatically. So you can see here the way it's done. It's not about the money. You can see that it's all about the impacts that you are creating. Usually, when we're doing this live, we go, whoa, that's so cool. I wish I could see the chat. So let's go again. Oh, there you see the global goals being counted. Everything in B1G1 is linked back to the global goals, those things that we have to do by 2030, I should say. And then, you can have some more examples. But look at this, interested in working with a business for good. Do you see that? He talks about that. And then you would just put your details in there and again, connect with that client. Here's another one. This is interesting. This is a guy called James Lazar. Some of you may know James. He is like in the CFO space as well. But I want you to see something on his site right here. It's very interesting. Let me just do this. And what I might be able to do is just blow this up a little bit. Let me just see if I can. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So you can see it. So you can have profits with principles. You can see all of that there. And then have a look. Now, here's a different way of measuring it. You can see on the right-hand side and down the bottom, and you can see how he links it. When we secure some R&D tax credits, this is what happens. When a client does this, this is what happens. You can see all of that. By the way, just today, literally 5 hours ago, I want to say, I had a note from James. I sent him a little note about the site saying, looking good, working well, but there are a couple of things that I think, you might want to do. He said, funny, you should say that. He said, this is what we're working on right now. So we're working on this together. This is what it's going to look like with all sorts of other interesting things together. So what I hope you're getting is this is really positioning you and putting you on purpose so that you're doing all of those things that we mentioned. Remember, you become the go-to firm for your client, for creating great clients, for creating a magnet for talent, and the respect and reward down the bottom. And by the way, one of the things and again, I'll show you in a moment how you can see more of this, you really can connect. So this would be something that you might want to, you can do it automatically. We work with you on the wording. This may not be great wording for you, but you can change all of that. So imagine you just did a tax return for the sake of discussion. Specifically want to thank you and congratulate you for being a client. One of the things that's really important to us is to make sure that something great happens every time we connect. Imagine how you would feel sending this, and imagine how your clients would feel receiving it. So with that in mind, we thought you'd love to know that 26 children just got access to game-changing education as a direct result of the meeting that we had together today. You remember what we talked about earlier on about moving from pushing to attracting and to belonging? Remember we talked about that? This is everything that B1G1 gives you the magic to enable you to create. And then down the bottom, again, all under your control, our simple goal here is to keep on making great things happen in our world together with you. Some of you may know of this man. He's the former CEO of Unilever. His name, as you can see, the top left there is Paul Pullman, the left on the book. He is now the chairman of the International Chamber of Commerce with 44 million members. And he was the guy who years ago people called on to help them with the global goals. This is his new book. It came out in October. In fact, it's the first book he's written. He's a very humble guy. And he wrote it together with Andrew Winston, as you can see. But look at the subtitle: How Courageous Companies Thrive by Giving More Than They Take. And in the first page of this book, he asks us a really, really powerful question. And here's the question: Is our world better off because your business is in it? It's such a powerful, powerful question. Our goal, together with our members around the world, our goal is to make sure you answer emphatically yes to that. Because when you do that, not only are you getting a greater sense of meaning in everything that you do, but your team members are getting that as well, and your clients are getting that and belonging to you as a result. So in terms of answering yes, and again, if I could see the chat, I would say, does this make sense to you? And you hopefully would say yes. Remember, we talked about story before. So let me just tie a little bow around our time together, which again, I'm really grateful for today. So when you think about your story, there's several elements to the story, right? There's history, the baggage, that stuff that's way out there, that baggage, right? And then there's your 2021 story, which none of us imagined we would be leading. Then the 2022 story, just 3 or 4 months old. But what we're talking about here now is this kind of line in the sand and saying, this is about your future story, but really it's about your future story now. And what we're doing together with you in B1G1 and together is we're co-creating that future story together with you. And you may remember what that's about. It's about setting the vision, the values, and the agenda for an entire generation yet to come. Now, if that resonates with you, there are a couple of things that you could do depending on how you feel about what we've been able to share tonight, or tonight, my time, right? So it's about your future story now. If you would like to take, there's a couple of routes, if you like, that you could take. By the way, if you're on the chat, you say, I love to do that. And you can see you can scan that QR code right there. And if you do that, that's called the B1G1 plan. Now, that's called like the scenic route. So the scenic route is where you get in, you do some interesting things with that little thing you see on the left-hand side of your screen, and you'll be able to kind of plan your get a look at and let us help you get through or get to putting that magic in. And some of you might like that slower scenic route. Others of you might say, Paul,
which one?
Oh, that was Siri saying that. So others of you might go, you know what? I don't want to sort of watch the game. I want to play the game. And if you're
sorry, I can't make changes to your contacts.
Oh, goodness. Siri is thinking I'm doing all sorts of different things here. So what if you want to play the game, and really that's, play in the arena, as it were, then you might want to do this. Now, this is a very special thing that doesn't happen. This is the first time I've done this, actually, over these years. You can see down the bottom, by the way, these bit.lys, make sure in the top one you use capital letters, and in the bottom one, make sure you use small letters, B1G1 easy. You see that? And what you can do, this is what I would call the amazing route, okay, the real magic route. And that, by the way, is 4 p.m. UK time. And what we're going to do is just take a little more time, not that much, but go inside B1G1 so that you can see not just the outcome, but actually do it and actually be involved in doing it. It's really, really fun. And that's happening in a couple of hours from now, but you will need to register. So make sure you've got a note of, or someone's put that on the chat, maybe bit.ly/B1G1, taking you deeply inside B1. with that in mind, and Reza, I'm not sure whether you can tell me whether a yes or a no. This is, I hope you're going to hear the computer sound when I play this. This is something that a B1G1 member produced just recently, which is a beautiful summary of what we've been talking about today. So Reza, hopefully you can hear the sound.
We can't hear the sound, but we can see the screen.
Okay.
I can hear very faintly, Paul, but I think perhaps if you turn it up from the screen.
I've done exactly that. Yeah, I've done exactly that.
It's very faint, Paul. I'm not sure whether people are.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It's nearly finished. Nearly finished.
Okay.
There you go. Well, unfortunately, there were some subtitles, but there's some beautiful music that goes with that as well. So sadly, you missed that, but we might make sure it's on any recording for you. So where were we today? We were all about this meaningful higher purpose and applying that into your firm for all the reasons that we talked about just a little or through these last 40 minutes or so. So it's all about powerful impacts and making them effortlessly to set your firm on a course where it needs to be in these really challenging times that we are in. So there again are those numbers at the bottom, or those links, I should say, at the bottom. You can see where B1G1 is right now. Yes, we're part of the 1% for the planet. Yes, we're a B Corp. And actually that number there, that's the number of impacts that the community has made right now. In fact, it's a little more than that. As of today, it's about 279 million giving impacts. So imagine, if you were, just being part of all of that in your firm. And by the way we think about those impacts, we think about them slightly differently. We think about every single one of those 280 million impacts. We think about them as smiles. That's what's happening. And so one of the things is already, as I said, 250 million smiles, even more than that. And one of the things that we would love to do, is add your smile into this so that we can make even more of those smiles together and together with you. Reza, thank you so much for having us here. I hope it's made sense. And even though we had some challenges with the tech, I hope it was powerful, and I hope it's been an amazing way to spend a lunchtime. And for those of you who have hit that bit.ly/B1G1 easy, I'll look forward to seeing you in a couple of hours.
Fantastic. That was amazing. Thank you so much, Paul, for being with us today. And I can't believe that you've got another session to go off to, and it's already evening time. I don't know how you do it, but hats off to you. No, that was really enlightening. Thank you so much for sharing that message with us. It really is, that connecting what we do to something bigger than ourselves, our purpose, and actually having some kind of meaningful impact in the world. And I love how B1G1 have enabled this to be done in such an effortless manner, and for the impact to be seen far and wide from the small things that we do, that it just happens in autopilot. We don't have to even think about it. And then obviously the impact that has around the people that we deal with, the people that work with us, and the clients that we serve. So absolutely, thank you so much, Paul, for spending your evening with us today. It's very much appreciated. Lots of positive things in the comments.
That's great.
Count me in. Impact driven is the goal. So no, it's been very, very, very productive. So thank you so much again, Paul.
Oh, thank you. And thank you, everybody, for spending lunchtime with me. Make sure the rest of your day, indeed the rest of your week, is an amazing one as well.
Brilliant. Thank you, everyone, for attending today's session. Hope you've got some value. If you've got any further questions, do put them in the comments. If you're listening on the replay, please do add your comments in. I'm sure Paul will get to them. Paul is very generous with his time, and I'm sure if he sees the comment and you have a question for him, he will be more than happy to answer. So feel free to add that in anytime you watch this on replay. Otherwise, have a great rest of the day, and I'll catch up with you on the next session. Take care. Bye for now.
Bye. Bye-bye.